prepare for. So there's that, and then there is this. Also, developing tonight, new reaction to new remarks on race from President Obama and the First Lady. The first couple speaking to People magazine, an extensive interview. The president talking about many black American men suffering from negative stereotypes, he says. The president is quoted as saying, quote, "There's no black male my age who's a professional who hasn't come out of a restaurant and is waiting for their car and somebody didn't hand them their keys." Jason Riley is an editorial board member for the Wall Street Journal, Fox News contributor, and author of Please Stop Helping Us, How Liberals Make It Harder for Blacks to Succeed. Jason, welcome. Good to have you here tonight. These comments started to trickle out today over the course of the day, and everybody has sort of had a chance to look at them at this point. But what do you make of that statement by the president?
Well, we haven't seen the whole interview, but these excerpts, I think, are pretty disturbing. I mean, the idea that a twice-elected black president of a majority white country would be lecturing us on the lack of racial progress is a little difficult to stomach, Martha, frankly.
Let's take a look at another one of these comments. He says, "It's one thing for me to be mistaken as a waiter at a gala. It's another thing for my son to be mistaken for a robber and to be handcuffed or worse if he happens to be walking down the street and is dressed the way that teenagers dress."
Yeah, Martha, the issue here isn't whether racism still exists in America. The issue is whether racism is still a major barrier to black progress in this country. And clearly, the presence of a black president in the White House is a sign of progress in this country. And I think the president is urging black America to continue to see themselves as victims, to pretend that nothing has changed. That is not what young black men need to hear from the President of the United States or the Attorney General. What blacks need from this president, are for him to talk about jobs and economic growth and those sort of things. They don't need to see themselves as victims, and that's what he's encouraging them to do out of political expediency. This plays well with his base, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, in that comment, you could say the same thing about any kid. If you're dressed in the wrong kind of, hat and your jeans are hanging down, or your skirt is too short and you're a young lady, there's going to be a judgment made about you based on that, regardless of what your color is. I also want to take a look at some of Michelle Obama's comments. It was a joint interview that they did with People magazine, and this one's kind of odd as well. Take a look at what Michelle Obama had to say in this case. She says the only person, she's talking about her visit to a Target store, and she says the only person who came up to me in the store was a woman who asked me to help her take something off the shelf because she didn't see me as the First Lady. She saw me as someone who could help her. Now, that's what she said in this People magazine article, but it's very interesting because she referred to the exact same moment when she went into a Target store. And it's also interesting because she said in the first instance that she was, sort of a little bit incognito. And in the second instance, she suggests that she wasn't. Listen to this.
The woman actually walked up to me, right? I was in the detergent aisle, and she said, I kid you not, she said, "Excuse me, I just have to ask you something." And I thought, oh, cover's blown. She said, "Can you reach on that shelf and hand me the detergent?" I reached up, because she was short, and I reached up, pulled it down. She said, "Well, you didn't have to make it look so easy." She had no idea who I was. I thought as soon as she walked up, I was with my assistant, and I said, "This is it. It's over. We're going to have to leave." She just needed the detergent.
It's such a totally different context.
It's
in that one, there she is in
history.
Target, and she's got a baseball hat on, and it's obvious you're a very famous person. You want to go out, you're going to try to make it not clear who you are. But in the new one, she says, "Look, these kinds of things happen in life, so it isn't anything new that I'm experiencing." She said she thinks that I was there to help her. In the previous instance, which we just saw on the Letterman show, she says she asked me to reach up because she was short. So what's the agenda in the recrafting of the story with this interview?
The agenda is to feed a certain narrative, which is blaming racism, using racism as an all-purpose explanation of what ails black America. In other words, we're not supposed to see President Obama and Michelle Obama as what America holds out for blacks these days. They want us to see them as exceptions. when nothing has really changed. Don't think of us as role models. Don't think of us as the norm. Think of us as exceptions to the rule. And I just think that is the wrong message. President Obama and Eric Holder could be leading a real conversation about race in this country. They could be leading a real conversation about black criminality, the type of behavior that leads to the Eric Garner situations and the Ferguson situations. They don't want to do that because that is not in their political interest to do. They want to keep a narrative out there that serves the Democratic Party and helps the Democratic Party keep blacks loyal, and that is keeping blacks dependent on the government and dependent and seeing themselves as victims.
To perpetuate this notion that you're being treated differently because of the color of your skin. And there's also an incident with Valerie Jarrett a while back where she asked a four-star general to get her a drink at a dinner because she mistook the side of his uniform as being the uniform of a waiter. So it's very clear that these things and these misunderstandings happen, you know, for all different kinds of reasons in these environments. But to use them in this way, you're right. It makes it appear that, oh, well, you know, we're still put in a certain place by a lot of people in this country.
And keep the context in mind here. This is done in an effort to give sort of cover to what the protesters are out there talking about. Black lives matter. They're trying to illustrate that black lives still don't matter. And it's such a false narrative. And it's a narrative that's ultimately going to hurt the people they claim to want to be helping, which is the black poor. Because to the extent that this anti-cop narrative takes hold and results in less policing of these bad communities, blacks will be worse off. And that's the problem.
Jason, thank you.